Hello everyone, welcome to Jolly Molly TV. Today we're going to start on Kimberbell's A Quilty Little Christmas project. We have several wall hangings here. We have 4 of them I think are super cute. You can make them individually or you can even make them into a ladder quilt like we did with the Pumpkins and Potions series that we just finished up. It's up to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually walk you through how to make these blocks. And then when we're all done sewing all the blocks, then we can figure out whether you want to do it in these individual cute little wall hangings or put it into a ladder quilt. I actually haven't decided which I'm going to do. So we're going to make all these blocks, get them all completed, and then we can play around with how we want to display them at the end. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to go to your instructions and I want you to look for the section that says Gallery Wall Complete Collection Materials Needed. What Kimberbell has done in these instructions is they have broken it up by section by each of these wall hangings. So the instructions for the gingerbread series is all together with the materials and everything you need for just that one. And they do that for each of these 4 designs. Then they have this section where it says complete collection, and that includes everything you need to have cut and the materials needed for the entire project. And that's what I like to work off of, because when I do all of the prep, which I'm going to show you in this video, I want to do all of it at once. I want to do all the cutting at once. I want to do all the fusing at once, etc. I don't want to have to stop and do that for each wall hanging as I get there. I want to have it all done. And then when we start stitching out the blocks, we are just stitching one after another and doing all the fun part, and all the prep part is done. Okay, so on this paperwork here that is for the complete collection, first thing I want you to do is I want you to highlight in yellow or pink, whatever color you want, where it says background under the piece column. Okay, those are the actual block backgrounds for each of these blocks. And when it says background, that means we're going to have to add a piece of fusible to it on the back side to support the cotton to make sure that it can handle all the embroidery that we're going to put on it. So just highlight the word background. If it says pocket background, you don't need to fuse that one. But just highlight the words background on each of these 3 pages. Okay, that tells you again that piece of fabric is going to need a fusible on the back side. Okay, then I want you to look at the block by block size here on the far right side. That's telling me because we're going to be doing the quilting as we go in each block. We're going to use Kimberbell's designs. We're going to quilt the quilting first and then quilt design on top of that. We need to have these particular pieces of fabric cut slightly larger. So Kimberbell has highlighted them in blue. This is what we need to make sure that these fabrics are cut to. That allows for a little bit of the shrinkage when it does the quilting. You'll notice each one of these is slightly larger than the standard cut size, and that's to allow for the quilting. Okay, so what we're going to do to prepare for all this, we're going to be cutting all the fabrics at basically in the same session so that you have them all done. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. I am not going to be cutting my embellishments. I like to keep them intact, and then I'll show you as we make each block how I can position the embellishment to maximize the amount that I can get out of that embellishment. Sometimes I can even get up to a second project done by not pre-cutting my embellishments and putting the whole piece down and maximizing the position. So I do not pre-cut my embellishments. Okay, last thing you need to know is you're going to need the stabilizers. Kimberbell has listed the stabilizers that you need. It's a heavy cutaway stabilizer, a light mesh, what I call a poly no-show mesh stabilizer, a wash away or water soluble topping, a fusible backing, which we're going to fuse on the back of these background pieces, and then project batting or batting that you happen to have at your house to put in each block as we create it. Then there's also these embroidery thread colors, which I'll go over here in a minute. It gives you a chart of the thread colors that you need. Okay, so in order to get ready to cut this fabric, which is going to be the bulk of your homework, I highly recommend that you have some of these plastic pouches. These are actually pouches that they use at school, and they can put the math problems that they're working on in here, and then they can actually mark with a dry erase or wet erase marker on the top, and they're able to reuse that math project over and over again. I love these for Kimberbell projects because we can label them here. You see this one's labeled Foursquare. This one's labeled Gift. We can label them for each of the blocks that we're doing. And so if you look in your instructions on page 4, they will give you the names that you need to label on these plastic pouches. You'll need 25 of them. Okay, I have a link in the description below to where I get mine on Amazon. So if you're interested, you can use that link and purchase a set of these as well. I think they come in a set of 32 or 36. And I actually have 3 sets now because I'm rotating and doing different projects at different times. These are so handy. You cut your fabric, you slide it in, and it stays put. A tip for the markers. You want to use dry erase or wet erase. Dry erase works great, but I have found that as I'm working with the pouches, because it's dry erase, it will eventually start to rub off. So now I use wet erase markers that will stay in place and stay put until I'm ready to take a paper towel and a little bit of water and actually clean it off, and it comes off perfectly clear. So I highly recommend these pouches with a wet erase marker. Make a pouch for each one of those pouches here that they've listed, and it will be perfect to put all of your fabric in. Okay, so now when you go to cut your fabric, this is what your homework's going to be between now and the next class. You need to cut all your fabric and put them in the appropriate plastic pouch. Kimberbell comes up with these great diagrams, which are so helpful. You can actually see the fabric, and you can see how best to lay it out to get the maximum amount out of your fabric. So in this case, we're going to do one. I am looking at F22. It shows it going up this direction, so the tall direction will go here, not like this. The picture shows it always going the tallest straight up. I use little sticky notes, okay, because if you're looking at this, you might get confused. So I just take 2 little sticky notes and I put them on the 2 sides of that. And sometimes if it's really confusing, I'll put one up here too. That way my eyes are going to focus on the one that I'm working on, and I'm not accidentally going to pick up the one next to it. So I want to work on this candy cane fabric right here. So I have the fabric in the correct direction, and it's telling me I need 3 inches wide, and I need a 5-inch tall and a 5-inch tall piece. So I'm just going to real easy line this up on my mat. I happen to have a 3-inch wide ruler, and there it is. You're not going to have that. That's okay. Just make sure you count out 3 inches. I double check. It says 3 by 5. I'm actually going to come over here. Where is it? Here it is. And I'm going to look for this candy cane fabric. There's the candy cane fabric, and it tells me I need 2 3 by 5 pieces. Always double check that this equals this. 99.9% of the time it does. But there'll be one time where they may have accidentally made a mistake, and you need to make sure that you cut it the correct size. If these are different, I would definitely cut it to the larger of the two sizes, okay? But like I said, 99.9% of the time, it's right on. It's also telling me that this is going to be for filler blocks 3 and 4. So I'll keep that in mind here. Okay, so I double check again. I'm looking for 3 inches wide, and I'm going to have 2 pieces that are 5 inches. Now, because this is 3 inches all the way up, I can take my rotary cutter and I can do a 3-inch cut all the way to the top of the fabric. And put this, whoops, here we go. There we go. Put this to one side because you can use that for scrap or a boo-boo piece if you need that for later. Okay, now I'm going to come down here, and it measures 11 inches. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to check myself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 5-inch. We're good to go. There's one piece. And then this one will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a little bit left over. Let's go ahead and cut that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Always double check before I cut. A little scrap that you can use maybe for applique on something in the future. And then I'm actually have all of my filler blocks in one pouch because I ran out of pouches. I was short a couple. So no problem. I'm going to put these because they're for filler blocks. And I'm going to put them right inside my filler block pouch. Make sure they're flat so I don't have to iron them again. And the filler block is ready to go. You're going to do that for each and every one of these pieces of fabric. I highly recommend starting like I did with these smaller pieces. That'll kind of get you in the rhythm of how to cut and what the process is. Then once you get the smaller pieces done, then I actually graduate myself up to the middle and then to the long pieces, which are for your borders, okay? And I work my way up to these large ones, and I do these large ones last, all right? Then as I do it, I would go to that candy cane that we just did, and you can see it's not checked off yet because I haven't done it yet, and then I'm going to check right next to that 3x5 that tells me that I cut it the larger size because it's highlighted in blue, and then go through and do that for each and every one of these fabrics. Take your time. This takes a while and you want to be accurate. You don't want to do this when you're rushed. Okay, enjoy the process. Cut each one at a time and then just check yourself off, and then before you know it, you're going to have everything done. Isn't that cool? So then you have all your pre-cut fabrics in your plastic pouches. Now, one last little tip. If you come across one that you've highlighted in yellow as a background piece of fabric, I want you to take a clover clip or a pin, your choice, and I want you to put that on that piece of fabric. That's going to tell you in the next step that you need to pull that piece of fabric out and attach a piece of fusible to the back of that. Then once you fuse that, you can put it back into your pouches. Okay, that's my sign that I can very quickly come into one of these plastic pouches and pull out that background piece and not have to figure out, well, what size was it? The clip tells me what it is. Okay, so now you're asking me, well, how do I know what size of fusible to cut? Because after you've cut all your fabrics, then you need to cut fusible and fuse it to the back side. I have made this little chart, which is going through the instructions and telling myself, okay, this is the size of the fabric, And then this is the size and number of fusible pieces I need to cut in order to fuse to the back. Now, when you're doing fusible, because you don't have to have the fusible to the very edge of your fabric, you just need to have it so that it is covering 99% of that fabric. You're not going to be embroidering to the very edge. So if the block says it's going to be 8.5 by 8.5, I cut my fusible 1/2 inch shorter. I only need an 8 by 8. Okay, you can take a screen print with your phone of this chart because it tells you how many you need. So like 8 by 8, I need 1. 8 by 4, I need 1. 8 by 6, I need 5, etc. That tells you exactly the sizes that you need. So now I want you to cut all your pieces of fusible. Then I want you to go into your pouch system, and if you have, like I said, a binder clip on this, this tells me this piece is a background piece. And you can see here, I have fused the fusible to the back. Again, I don't need to be all the way to the edge on each side because the embroidery, the stitches that it's going to be doing, is not going to go all the way to the edge. So you can save a little bit of fusible there by not having it cover the entire piece of fabric. So you'll pull a piece out, you'll get the size of fusible that you need, and then you're going to fuse this onto the fabric. You turn your fabric right side down, you put the fusible with the glue or the nubby side down to the back of the fabric. That's the glue to attach. You should have the soft, smooth side up here. Take a pressing sheet, put it on top, and then go ahead and press per your fusible instructions and fuse that on. The Palon 860 that I use takes about 15 seconds per section here to fuse this on so that it stays. And make sure your iron is on high heat. If it's on low or medium, it'll take a lot longer to fuse. Then let it cool down. I put it off to one side and I'll start fusing the next piece. And then when it's cool, you can slide it back in to its appropriate plastic pouch system here. And then it's ready to go to the machine. Okay. Then the last thing you need to do for your homework is you need to cut batting for each of the blocks. Because when we make the block, we put down our stabilizer, then we add batting, and then we put our fabric on top. So the batting gives it that really cool dimension as we make each block. These are the sizes of batting that you'll need and how many for your project. Okay, like 5 by 5, I need 15 pieces. That's going to be the majority size of the blocks. 5 by 7, I need 5. Okay, so again, take a screen print of this, and this will tell you how many pieces of the batting and the fusible that you need. And your last question is, you're probably going, well, how did you figure that out? Okay, so what I did, and I'm hoping that this helps you also organize your project. What I've done with this is I have gone through each of the blocks and I have wrote myself a little sticky note that says, okay, hoop, what size hoop does this block need? And how I figure that out is it'll tell me, okay, I'm going to be doing a 4 by 4, but I'm going to be doing quilting. The quilting design is going to be 4.5 by 4.5. That tells me it won't fit in my 4 by 4 hoop. I need a 5 by 7 hoop. So I write down 5 by 7. Then the batting needs to be a 1/2 inch larger than the quilted area. So it's telling me on this block, it's going to be 4.5 by 4.5. So my batting size needs to be 5 by 5. Okay. Last thing, I need to make 2 of these blocks. So I need a 5 by 5 and I need 2 pieces of batting. And then what I do is I put the sticky note right there and then I write it on my tablet that tells me I need 2 pieces of batting 5 by 5. And I will go through and do that for each and every block. I'll walk you through this one. This is the quilt number 2. The block by block quilting is going to be 6.5 by 6.5. I'm going to need my 8 by 8 inch hoop for this block. My quilting is going to be 6.5 by 6.5. The finished design is going to be squared up to 6.5 by 6.5. So I'm going to make my batting 1/2 inch larger. So my batting is 7 by 7. I'm making one block, so I only need one. And then I go ahead and I put that sticky note on the page. The reason I do this, twofold, is one, this is how I get my list here. This is how I get my list of how many pieces of batting I need. The fusible, I actually pull off this list right here because I can tell myself, all right, I'm cutting a background, 8.5 by 8, so my fusible is 1/2 inch smaller, 8 by 8. This sticky note system is where I get my information for the batting. I mark each and every one, what size hoop I'm going to need, and the size of batting. This is perfect because when it comes time to do the stitching and I want to make the letter block, I go, oh, I just grab my 5 by 7 hoop and a piece of 5 by 7 batting. I don't have to stop and think and try to figure out what hoop I need and what batting I need. I've already figured it out and I'm ready to start stitching. Because I don't know if you're like me, but when I get to my embroidery machine and I want to stitch, that's all I want to do is stitch. So I don't have to think. I grab my 5 by 7 hoop, I grab a piece of 5 by 7 batting, and I am off to the races. All right. So I mark each and every one of these. Then after I'm all done with this block and it's all completed, it's going to be squared up to the final size, then I take the sticky note off and that tells me I'm done with that block. Okay, that's a good system there too. Or if you're going to make multiples of this project in the future for gifts, I'd leave that sticky note on, and then that way you know in the future when you go to make that block again what hoop and what batting size you need. That's how I organize my projects. Okay, so your homework again between now and the next class is to cut all of your fabrics, put them into your plastic pouch system, do your fusible on the background if your background requires it, get those done, and then the last thing you need to do is you need to cut all of your batting, and I actually label them with a sticky note and a clover clip, and these are 5 by 5s. I have multiples because they're so thick. Well, go ahead and label them like this because then again when you're ready to stitch, I go, oh, I need my 3 by 7. There it is. It's labeled 5 by 7s, 7 by 7s, etc. So they're quick and easy to grab along the way. So do your fabric, do your fusible, put the fusible on, cut your batting, and clip them and label them as per size. Okay? Then the only other thing that you need to do is grab some supplies, which let me show you right here. Okay, so this is the last thing you need to do is collect some supplies to make your project. Now I went to my thread stash and I actually grabbed a whole bunch of colors of thread. This is more than I need, okay? But I have different shades of green. I think it requires 4 or 5 shades. And I have a couple extra because I'm not quite sure if that's going to be the right color when I go to stitch. I know it's going to be close. This is the leaf green. So I just got a couple so I have a selection to choose from when I start to stitch. Okay, same with the pinks. I think I only need 2 pink, but this way I have a couple options depending on what's going to look best with the fabric as I get there. Okay, same thing like the reds. I'm not quite sure whether I want this lighter red or a medium, kind of a Christmas red, and then I have a deep red. Not quite sure which one I'm going to like when I get there, but I've pulled it so that I'm ready to go. I'm going to pull a copper, and the yellow could be a yellow gold or a gold, all depends. And then of course I have a beige. There I have a beige. So that's the bulk of the threads I'm going to need. So then I have my extra fabric and my borders here all ready to go. And then I have my embellishments and my cute buttons and everything on this side. So I have everything in one basket ready to go. You'll need, of course, your rotary cutter. You'll need some embroidery thread scissors to cut the thread at the machine. And then I highly recommend a pair of curved scissors. I have the link to this in the description below. These are Havel scissors, and I get them on Amazon, and they're curved upward. See that there? So that way, these are amazing to help cut the batting off the block and applique, so you don't actually cut into your stabilizer down below. I highly recommend these. Again, I also love these because I'm a big girl, and these are very comfortable to use because they have the larger finger holes. So I love those. These clover clips come in handy without poking yourself. When you sew your blocks together at the end, those come in very handy. I also highly recommend a clapper. This clapper is also linked in the description below. I get this on Amazon. This will come in very handy at the end of the video series where we are sewing the blocks together and helping keeping your seams flat. Okay, and of course a ruler, a cutting mat, and an ironing station, and an iron. Okay, those are the basic supplies that you need and the homework that you need to do for the next video. I'm excited. This is going to be a really cute project, and I hope that you're going to love making this as much as I know I'm going to. So do your homework and stay tuned here on Jolly Molly TV for more fun on Kimberbell's A Quilty Little Christmas project. And until I see you soon, take care and happy stitching. Bye-bye.